Um, okay, just a minute to be sure everything is in order. Okay, cool. All right, so welcome everyone. Welcome to our, I think this is the 11th edition. I can't remember. But this is the 11th edition of the Wiki Mentor Africa live events. Today we'll be discussing harnessing the potential of technical writing for African Wikimedians. But before I introduce our mentor for this month, I want to just go over a brief, go over briefly on the basically do housekeeping. So for those of us who have been joining us, who have been with us over time, you know the drill. We've been doing this. This is not our first time, so those on YouTube, you might not have any issues concerning this part of the housekeeping. But those on Zoom, basically what we need from you is just basically turn off your mics when you don't have anything to say. If you have any question, just raise your hand or use the raise hand icon on the bottom. For those on laptop, on the bottom of your screen, you see it. For those on your phones, you could also see it. I think also located on the bottom or somewhere. You just see the mic icon, just click it. If yours is if you want to say something, just raise your hand first before, so we'll allow you. The reason why we're doing this, or why I'm saying this, is so that we'll be at the end of the day, we will not have a rowdy session. We'll be able to have a very smooth session. So remember, the rule is simple. Just raise your hand, use the raise hand icon whenever you have any question, and then we'll let you have the floor. Also, another very important thing we observe across, not just for those on the Zoom platform, this applies to those on Telegram as well as those on YouTube. The friendly space policy still applies. Just in a nutshell, the briefest summary I could give to that, for those who don't know what the friendly space policy simply means, is that treat everyone here as your friend. Just do not harass anyone. Do not try to intimidate anyone. Do not use any derogatory comments. Do not basically treat everyone as you will wish to be treated, even nicer. So just be nice. That's just the summary of that. I don't know if there's any other thing I'm forgetting to mention. Oh, one last thing. I actually forgot to do mic check. So 1, 2, mic check. Can we all hear me? Let me be sure all what I've said I've not just been wasted. So if you can hear me just on the chats, you could just type here. Awesome. Thank you, Dan. For those who are on YouTube, you can if you have any question, just drop it as a comment. I will see it, will read it out, and the question will be answered, hopefully. So also one other thing to mention is that for this, just like our usual sessions, we try to see how to make everyone comfortable no matter how long we'll spend. So we'll be doing our usual data reimbursement. So we'll be giving out data for the amount of time you spend with us here. So feel free to relax and just focus on learning. Do not focus so much on how much you'll be spending on your data, but focus on learning today. So we'll be giving out data reimbursement, but please note something. For those on YouTube and those on Zoom, there will be no priority in terms of prioritizing only those on Zoom. We will also give the data reimbursement to those on YouTube as well. But the catch is that there will be a question for you to answer. So the event will be for 2 days, today and tomorrow. So when filling the form, you know the drill. For those who don't know the drill, we will be sending a data reimbursement form where for those who want data reimbursement, can fill the form, and then a question will be there for each session. So today's session and tomorrow's session. For those who answer correctly, the question that will be there, you get the you get the data reimbursement basically. But for those who answer wrongly, then you might not get it. Particularly, the question will be 2 questions or more, but you have to get all the questions to be able to get the data reimbursement. So I will encourage everyone to please pay attention, try to listen, try to concentrate. Like I said, forget about the amount of data you'll be spending. Just focus on what you'll be learning today. So having said all this, I don't know if anybody has any question on what I've said so far before I introduce our mentor. Any questions so far? If there is none, then I will go ahead to introduce our mentor. So I want to introduce our mentor for this week. Like I said, for this month, like I said, we'll be going through this session. This event is a 2-day event, today and tomorrow. And the person who will be taking us through this journey is nobody but Dan Sheck. I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name well, but he will be talking to us about technical writing. He is a technical writer guru. He is, in fact, very, very knowledgeable in the field, and he will be coming to us to take us on harnessing the potentials of technical writing for African Wikimedia projects. For those of you who are tired of writing code, the beautiful thing is that at least this is not code. This is you writing about making people, be able to understand what. Let me not spoil it. Let me not even say anything. Let me allow Dan to come and just take us through this journey. Hi, Dan. Awesome.
Hi, Benedict. Can you hear me okay?
Very well. Can hear you very well.
Great. Yeah, thanks for the great intro. You were about to eat up my first 10 minutes of presentation.
Yeah, I just had to just keep me quiet.
Yeah, not at all, but I appreciate it. I mean, it says a lot that you can, a lot of the principles of technical writing are pretty much intuitive and natural. I do see somebody in the chat can't hear. I don't know if that's still the case, but hopefully everyone can hear me.
Sorry. Can you hear me? Joyce also is saying she can't hear.
Yeah.
So Joyce, can everybody hear me? Just reply by yes or no on the chat, then we'll know. Even those on YouTube. Okay, so they can hear me. So I guess Joyce and I guess you just have to probably your network or maybe just log out and log in again, try again.
Okay,
all right, you can go ahead.
Feedback, everybody. Yeah. So I actually produced a little presentation here, but the problem is that I won't be able to see the raised hands. So I think what I'll do is, it's not a super complicated presentation, but I do have my notes in it, so I need to have it open. So what I'll do is I'll just go through each section and then I'll dive out of the presentation and take a look for some questions. And I had also planned to have a Q&A at the end. But feel free to ask questions, as Benedict said, during the presentation, and I'll get it to at the end of each section. Not that it's that super structured. Anyway, hello, everyone. My name is Dan Sheck. I'll introduce myself while I'm still on camera. I'm a technical writer at Wikimedia Germany. I've been there for about 3 years, and it's a dream career, to be honest. I've been dreaming of a job like this forever after working about 25 years in system administration. Let me share my presentation with you. Bear with me for a moment. I have not hosted Zoom before. All right. Hopefully people can now see the presentation.
Yes, we can.
Great. If there's some problem, please notify me by audio. That would be awesome. So this is about harnessing the power potential of technical writing. That's me. My name is Dan Sheck. I think we should just do a little talk about technical writing. As Benedict pointed out, as he demonstrated, a lot of the principles of technical writing are not as complicated as you might think. A lot of them are pretty intuitive. He was already on the road to talking about some stuff that I'm going to talk about, but I'll talk about the stuff that I found useful in my career. And then I'll ask you to do a little participation if you are so inclined, and then we'll have a little Q&A at the end. And of course, as I said before, if you have any questions during the process, let me know. I would say that the first and most important thing about technical writing is having empathy. Let's see, I guess I already did my introduction. I can also tell you that that I'm originally from California, that I was born in the Bay Area. And I live here in Berlin, Germany. I've been here for about 5 years now, doing this career as a technical writer for 5 years. And I also used to live back here back in 2001, which was a lot different, a lot different than it is now. Pretty strange. I'm an amateur novelist. I like Japanese food, and I like to ride my bike. So now you know everything you need to know about me. So I'd like to know who you are too. Maybe give me a thumbs up or your favorite emoji reaction if you edit a Wikipedia. I can't see the Zoom window anymore. Isn't that terrible? How about an emoji reaction if I didn't plan this very well? Sorry, everyone.
Yeah, I think most folks are giving the emoji reaction on the comments.
Great.
On the chat, rather. So yeah, we could see a lot of them already.
Excellent. Good news. Good news. How about people who edit a Wikipedia besides the one for the country that you live in? All right. Yeah, I really expected to be able to see this. Sorry, everybody. Who out there edits Wikidata? And perhaps somebody out there does writing for a living or does any other kind of writing. I hope that you all enjoy writing, whether you do it as part of your job or as leisure activity or anything in between. So what is technical writing? I'm not going to give you the dictionary definition. That would be silly. But obviously, technical writing is writing about technical topics. But the goal of technical writing is to make technical topics clear for those who need to learn about them. And I mean, that's huge. I think people often discount how important that is. I think a lot of people think that a lot of software is self-documenting, that all you have to do is get used to learn how to use it just by diving in. But in fact, so many people need a helping hand in getting started. There is so much stuff that you just can't know, and not everybody has the leisure time to spend hours and hours messing around with a new interface or a new piece of software. So technical writing, I guess maybe I don't need to sell you on it if you're in this session, but still, it does a lot. It's in a way it gives life to some software. If you write software and it doesn't have documentation or any kind of explanation, it can just lie there and be. If your README on GitHub is empty, it's not going to do you any good if nobody knows how to use it. So, but how do we do technical writing? What tools do we need? I'm going to talk about 4 different kinds of tools. In general, I don't mean like software tools, but just sort of tools that I use to do technical writing. I'm going to talk about empathy, which I hinted at before. I'm going to talk about subject matter experts. I'm going to talk about documentation hygiene, and I'm going to talk about the most important one, editing. Maybe they're all the most important, who knows? But first, empathy. I think that empathy is a writer's secret weapon. It's the #1 tool because in order to write good documentation, you have to put yourself in someone else's position. And that someone is, of course, the reader. Now, I think that a lot of people have the conception that being a good technical writer means you have a lot of technical knowledge. And of course, having a technical background is important. But in my opinion, the most important skill to have is knowing how to communicate, and then just knowing people who know all the stuff. As far as my personal history, as I mentioned, I was a sysadmin for about 25 years. And my biggest breakthroughs as a technical writer were not based on that background at all. was based on basically starting from scratch, way down deep, where I just knew basically nothing about a topic. And those were the times when I had the most amazing experiences as a writer. And I feel like I did some of my best work because I was able to get into that, because I wasn't an expert. And I was able to remember what it was like to not know the material, to be in that beginner's mind. Yeah, so when you get into that state of empathizing, I feel like it's pretty natural. You just sort of know, you can feel in your head what your audience needs to know, because you're in that person's shoes and you know what they might be missing. I think sometimes we can imagine, okay, I know who I'm writing this for, and then you dive into the document, but then you can kind of lose your way, and you can kind of go astray. So it's always important to keep in mind who your audience is throughout the entire process. Again, might seem pretty simple, but I have read so many documents where all good intentions were kept at the beginning, and then it suddenly drifted into the weeds. So this is a trick that I use, and you might try it yourself. When you're writing, try doing this. Like when you finish a section or an entire document, just imagine you're in a room with your reader and you're reading them the document aloud, just one-on-one to you and some fictional reader, and then just try to imagine what questions they might have, what questions or concerns they might have. And if you have no idea what they would say, then I feel like maybe you haven't empathized with them as much as you could, which is just a way of not a criticism of you, but it would be great to be able to visualize, like, is this a person who knows anything about wiki text? And if you're trying to explain editing a Wikipedia or something, if this person knows nothing about wiki text, you need to maybe explain the concept of markup to them. They might not say, well, what's even markup? So anyway, that's something to think about. And so now it's your turn. I again can't really see my notes and solicit your questions. So do me the favor of just think of a project or two you know of that might need better documentation. I mean, we all know at least one, I'm sure. Or maybe a project that doesn't have any documentation at all. So you've done that. And now just imagine that your new job is to write a technical introduction to one of those projects that you know very little or nothing about. How might you begin? So I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see what everybody's saying. Yeah, how might you begin going about this process? Does anybody want to? I can't see anybody raising their hand. I have some suggestions. Well, I always start from the start. It's great. So of course, research, right? You can start with a little research. You can go to the library. I think most of us would probably do research on the internet. You could join user groups and talk to people, people who might be experiencing the same things that you are. But I think the most important one is using subject matter experts, people who know, who are in on it. Maybe people who are developing the project, maybe people who are who are power users of the project, and pick their brains. For some of the things, when I came up with this idea, one of the things that I did some documentation on recently was abstract Wikipedia, which is something I knew absolutely nothing about. And I didn't have access to a subject matter expert, unfortunately. So I had to do a whole bunch of research. It took me forever. I just imagined this wonderful world where I could have sat down with Denny or Lydia or any number of folks who were intimately familiar with abstract Wikipedia and really gotten the download about that, and that would have been great. So think about that. What you might do when you're trying to gather information that you don't have. Subject matter experts. And I don't know how excited people are about performing interviews, but to me, there's nothing like sitting down with somebody who really knows what they're talking about and using a very short amount of time in a very structured way to extract information from their heads. So before I launch into that, I'm going to dive back out of this presentation again and see if there are any questions. Oh yeah, great. I see this stuff in the chat here. Yeah, I like, especially like by defining the concepts of the topic first. Yeah, that's excellent. Hire an expert. Yes, I think not everybody has a budget for that, but that would be great. Yeah, research is great. Defining the concepts of the topic, I really like that one, especially because that is at some point during the process, you're going to be making an outline, whether it's before you're meeting with the expert or after. You're going to need to make an outline to write this document, which unfortunately, you've got to. What does documentation entail? It's a good question. Well, when I say documentation, I'm just talking about technical writing for one particular topic. I mean, I wouldn't call what I wrote about abstract Wikipedia documentation, but I did look at documentation like on MediaWiki.org when I was learning about it. So I was able to read the abstract about the introduction to it, and then I was able to read some of the examples about abstract Wikipedia. I hope that answers your question. So I'm scrolling back. Okay. All right, let's dive back in here. Let's see if I can do it from the correct slide this time. Great. So I don't know about you, but my experience with subject matter experts is pretty much that they're very busy and that they are sick of being asked questions. So it's important to, when you have located this subject matter expert, that you respect their time by making an outline, as someone suggested in the chat. Sorry, I didn't write your name down. Preparing every minute that you prepare is just going to pay off hugely, because the subject matter expert is going to know exactly what you need to know. And yes, it's true that you need their help, but although they might not know it, they need your help too, because you're helping spread the information that possibly only they know. So you're getting it out of their head, and you're bringing it to the world so that those people don't have to keep answering the same questions. I can think of a few folks at Wikimedia Deutschland, Wikimedia Germany, who are pretty much the domain experts of certain things, and they just get peppered with questions constantly. Now, not that they're not grateful or not, happy to answer them, but sometimes there's just so many hours in the day. So when there's good documentation, you unburden those experts. Not every expert is very good at writing documentation. So you're relieving them of the need to write it themselves, and have it be crappy. And then, of course, you're helping them reach their audience, because, if they're making a product, they want that product to get out there. The way I look at it is, it's sort of like when you have a subject matter expert at your disposal, it's like you found a copy of a rare, important book that a whole lot of people could use if there were more than one copy. So you just got to start transcribing it. You got to run to a photocopier or scan it or whatever it takes, or memorize it. But get it out there so that you still start telling people about it, so that information doesn't stay siloed. And yes, I think that some people might say that relieving them of the need to write the documentation themselves is letting them off the hook, which I wouldn't say. I do think that everybody needs to write documentation. If you write something, you might be tempted to just be, as I said before, you might be tempted to think, this code documents itself. I don't need to say a word about it. But it's amazing how helpful it is when somebody writes the documentation. But it's even better when a technical writer can come in and help that person by using writing skills, so that they can use the skills that they've got in other ways. And so let people do what they love, I'd say. subject matter experts don't need to write the article. I covered this already. And we technical writers, we don't need to be universal experts. All we need to do is be good translators, if you will. So, oh yes. Just to divide it up, as far as the skills that each of us needs to bring to the table, we have to write the actual doc, so we need to be, well versed in the language that we're writing it in. We need to be able to digest info provided by others. We need to have we need to be able to address an audience in a way that engages their attention and that makes them want to respond. If a subject matter expert, if you come to a subject matter expert and you just bore them to tears, or everything's in disarray and you don't have a good outline, they're not going to give you good information. But if you're able to be like, I've shown up here, I have a bunch of very directed questions, and then they give you the answers, and then you ask follow-up questions that show you're really paying attention and listening and engaging, that's the skill. I don't think everyone thinks of technical writing as needing that skill, but that is a hugely useful skill, being able to interview someone and engage them. And yeah, of course, we need to be good at outlines and summaries. Whereas the experts, all they need to do is be skilled in their subject area. They might be the only ones who know the topic. Like I said, they're often overbooked. And yes, they are allowed to hate the act of writing. Unlike us, we are not allowed to hate the act of writing. So, okay, here I am diving out of the presentation again. Can I answer anybody's questions? All right. Am I going too fast? If everybody can understand my weird California accent. Okay. All right. Well, I'm not seeing any responses in the chat, so I'll move back into the presentation. Yes. Thanks. Great. Wonderful. Appreciate it. Thanks for the feedback. All right. So now think of a topic you might like to write about. And so think about maybe some questions you would ask a subject matter expert during an interview with them. Feel free to respond in chat. Great. Thanks. I'm glad you're following. Just checking. Yeah, so what are some questions you might ask a subject matter expert based on a topic that you can think of? I mean, I'll throw out my example, abstract Wikipedia. With my abstract Wikipedia work, what would have been great for me to ask them is, how does it differ from Wikidata? That would have been a great place to start. How, when that project gets started, how will community members be able to engage with it? For those of you who are familiar with abstract Wikipedia, it involves recording information in a way that doesn't involve a human language, which is a real brain breaker for me. So I would have probably asked that question. Can you give me an example of how it is you can write down information that isn't in a language? Because half of it is encoding it in that abstract way, and half of it is writing functions that decode it and transform it into a language. Hideously complicated. I barely got my mind around it, and it would have been so great to sit down with somebody and ask those questions. And I also have to say, we're really bad at naming things, because abstract Wikipedia refers to both the project itself and a part of the project. There's the media Wikimedia thing. Does that drive anybody else crazy? Drives me crazy. Anyway. All right. So now I'm going to dive back out of here and look at questions. If technical writing is that easy, why is it technical then? Well, that's a good question. I don't think that it's absolutely easy, but I think it is easier than people think. I think you have to. It's about technical topics, but again, I don't have to understand code. I don't have to understand a particular language. Like I don't speak Python. I'm more of a Perl person from way back. But if I had to document a Python module, then I would sit down with a Python expert, someone who is familiar with those with the functionality of that module, maybe the author, if they were on GitHub, or on somebody who is very familiar with it. Yeah, that's a good answer too. Yeah, you make use of techniques. But I would also say that there is obviously there's a technical aspect to it because we're documenting technical things. But I guess what I'm here to say is that it's not all about having technical knowledge already, but it's about being able to gather that knowledge. Yes, I'm talking about technical writing. Is it related to tech or codes? Well, that's an interesting question. Well, when you say codes, I guess you probably mean programming languages. I'm going to guess that that's true. Can you maybe you can respond to that? But I would say that yes. Okay. Yeah. I would say that programming languages and technical things are absolutely part of technical writing. But you know what else is part of technical writing? Writing a manual for a dishwasher, which doesn't sound like much fun, but that is technically technical writing. In fact, I would say that a lot of technical writers make decent money doing that kind of thing, writing manuals. Can you become a technical writer without having a proper technical knowledge of coding? Absolutely. I am not a coder. I can write a script on occasion, but the skill that I think is most important is being able to extract information from others, to understand something you didn't understand a minute ago, and then explain it in a way that can be understood by others. I think that's what technical writing is all about. So whenever I see or see tech projects, I do run away from it. Where can one start from? Well, I think the best place to start for someone who wants to become a technical writer is find a project that you're interested in, that you're interested in learning about. Doesn't have to be something that you're interested in writing about necessarily, but something that you're interested in learning about. And then and when you learn about it, you're going to take notes. Probably, I imagine that you wouldn't just read about it and store it in your head, but you're going to take notes, and then you might try to develop those notes into a piece of writing that you could then show to someone else and say, does this make sense to you? I know you don't know about this stuff. Here are some notes I made on this stuff. I didn't understand it before I made the notes. You don't understand it now. Do you understand what I wrote down? That's what I would say. That's a good way to get started, I'd say. Do you have to be a writer to become a technical writer? Well, it helps. It certainly helps. I would say that of the two pieces of the two sort of skill sets, technical knowledge and discipline in a language, I would say that the writing is more important. I think that both can be learned. I think that, and I certainly have learned things as a writer during my career as a technical writer, and I've been writing since I was a kid. Writing has been my passion my whole life, but I learn things every day. So why not? Do we have a specific application to guide us on technical writing? I'm not sure what you mean by a specific application. Do you mean an application as in like a program, or do you mean a way of using it? A specific application. I mean, I'm going to assume you mean a program. I don't think there is. I mean, there's plenty of stuff when you're years into the career that you might need to learn to use. But I would say that the vast majority of work that I do, it doesn't matter what I use, what tool I use. That this is the tool that I use the most, and then it's just a matter of recording it. So I think that's something that's very nice and flexible about this career is being able to be flexible about the tools that you use. What I use for my final documents, Oh, like ChatGPT. Well, I don't know if I'm able to talk about that, but I will say that MediaWiki is where I publish my documentation. So if you're familiar with Wikitext, that might be all you need. As far as AI generated stuff, I'll just say one thing about that. When it comes to ChatGPT and AI generated stuff, we don't currently have a way of verifying that the stuff that it writes is true. So until there's some way to verify that that what ChatGPT puts out is truthful, is real, then I would say it is nothing more than than writing "I am alive" on a Post-it note and putting it in a copier and pressing the button and then saying, "Look, it says it's alive." I stole that joke from somebody. Sorry about that. Is a technical writer the same thing as a documentalist? Well, I've never heard of a documentalist before. But somebody who writes documentation, yes, I would say that those two things are very similar. Yes. Yes. Well, I mean, maybe this is just a great time for questions. It's been half an hour. I don't know. I am not sharing the screen. No, I am talking to. I'm just answering questions on chat at this moment. I will go back to sharing my screen. So we talked about that already. So now I'd like to talk about hygiene, but for documents. This is a silly little picture here. But what is hygiene for documents?
Sorry, we can't see a screen if you touch on this. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I did not. I didn't reshare. Sorry about that. Thank you. Did I mention this is the first time I ever hosted on Zoom? All right. How about now? Can you see a person washing their hands? Excellent. Sorry about that, everyone. Great. Yes. So I want to talk a little bit about hygiene, but for documents. So good documentation is alive. It needs food and it needs fresh air. So what do I mean by food? Well, I mean that if you write a piece of information, a piece of documentation about a piece of software, and then that piece of software gets updated, you need to go back to your documentation and update it so that it reflects reality, so that it's not outdated. And your documentation also needs fresh air. It needs to be put out there. It needs to be put out in the world, seen by different people, get feedback from those people. Doesn't have to be subject matter experts. And that's when documentation works the best, is when it's not just you write it once and then you leave it be. In my opinion, when you write a good document, you should feel proud of your success, but that is by no means the end of a task. It's the beginning of a relationship. Because from then on, you have this document that you wrote, and that document is yours now. And you're the person who is best equipped to fix it when it breaks, to update things, and most importantly, when that document becomes out of date, because maybe that piece of software isn't made anymore, or somebody refactored the code and it works completely differently now, that you need to put that code out to pasture. You need to get it into the archive and so people aren't reading old documentation. So that's very important. So I'm going to ask you another question, and I'm coming out of the screen share. I'll answer some more questions in a sec, but I want you to think about in what ways can a document get old? What do you think about that question? How can a document get old? Maybe it can, as I said, maybe someone can, yes, Ngozi. Feel free to unmute and ask the question.
Ngozi, you have the floor. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask.
Okay. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, I hear you. Yes,
Yes, we can.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. Well, let me try. Okay. I'll say that a document can get old, of course. The things that can to get old is when researches, then the old, but then it's not really old to the archive because one can reference to it or bring it or do comparison between that old document and the supposedly so a document can get old of when it is old, it is not it can still be used for comparison and for more updates to be done on it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for your answer. That's great. Yes, I think that's all well said. And another thing I saw in the chat also is if people don't find it valuable. I think a lot of the things we've said so far have been about documents going out of date, but wow, that is such a great insight, Linda. If people don't find it valuable, then it should absolutely be considered old and needs to be revised. That is wonderful. Yes, yeah, and that's a way in which it could be outdated. If you wrote a bad document, or if you wrote an ineffective document, or maybe you wrote a document and you accidentally addressed it to the wrong audience. So people are showing up looking at this document thinking it's for them, and it doesn't make sense to them. It's wonderful.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
I also want to let the people on YouTube know that they can also respond or ask their own questions via the comment section. Once they do that, I'll call your attention to it as well.
Great. Are they going to show up in the Zoom chat?
Yeah, once they ask the question, I will let you know.
Great, thanks. I'm seeing some more questions. That's great. How do I explore the world of technical writing? Like, how do I make ideas? Well, I don't know if I can give you a perfect answer on that one, but exploring the world of technical writing, there are a lot of great examples out there. I know this might sound weird, but the documentation for the website Zendesk is really, really well done. And if you want to see an example of good documentation that is concise and well designed and easily read and easily commented on, you can go to, I think it's zendesk.com. I'm not plugging them as a product, but they are well known to have really great documentation. And I could probably come up with a list of other ones if people are interested, of examples of good documentation. Any link to any technically written document? Well, there's a bunch of them on MediaWiki.org. I would love to offer a list of useful links at the end of this conversation that I have not yet. I did not prepare such a list. I didn't know that people would be interested, but that's wonderful. Yes, so I can shoot you a link to a few good documents, maybe one or two of them written by me on MediaWiki.org. That's where we keep our technical documentation, as you probably know. And yeah, there's a lot of great stuff on there. And I would say that reading documentation on MediaWiki.org, it's best to read stuff about maybe things that you already know a little bit about to see if you can learn more about it. But maybe coming in cold on something like abstract Wikipedia might not you might not get as much joy as you hoped. So these were all great questions, great answers to my question. Thank you. That was wonderful.
I think Charity was trying to also answer the question on YouTube. She said that documents can get old when is not constantly refreshed. Yeah,
I would agree. That sounds right. Yep. If they're not constantly refreshed, I like the fact that you're saying constantly refreshed, because it's one thing to make a single update to a document, but when you're thinking about it as it needing to be constantly refreshed, that's wonderful. Yeah, and I can only hope that that as volunteers or when we do it in our job, that we can just find enough time to go back to our documents. I find that difficult as well.
Another question that had come up
Sure.
is also someone. Tochi is also wanting to know, I guess, basically to see what a documentation looks like. So I don't know if you don't have that prepared today, maybe tomorrow we can also use that to do the demonstration of what documentation looks like.
Absolutely, yeah. I was thinking about doing something interactive for tomorrow. That sounds like a great idea. We'll take a look at some documentation pages.
Awesome.
Yeah, let's see. Are there any other questions on that topic, or can we move on to we've covered most of the stuff that I wanted to talk about. I'm keeping an eye on the chat. I'm also looking through my slides. Yeah, the last thing I wanted to talk about, and I won't bother with the slides now, I'll just look at you straight in the eyes and tell you about it. The most important thing, I think, of all the tools that we have is editing. I just think we need to, I think that writing a first draft of a document is great. And then we should not publish that. We should edit it. We should either edit it ourselves by writing it, walking away and coming back a little bit later and rereading it, or doing that maybe a day later, or perhaps the most important thing is getting help from others, getting feedback from others on what we wrote, so that we can get another pair of eyes on it. And I think that's the way that you learn editing, and really editing is the only way to make writing really excellent. Because you shave off all the rough edges, and you just you make something good into something great. Is copywriting also technical writing? I wouldn't say that's true. Copywriting is usually what you refer to when you're talking about writing copy for like advertisements. So I wouldn't say that is necessarily that isn't technical writing. No, technical writing would be like, as I say, maybe the manual for your coffee maker, or for your dishwasher, or for how to replace the cartridge of your pen, or anything like that. Even the smallest little thing that tells you how to do something with a household appliance or piece of software, or anything like that. That's all technical writing. Copywriting would be like, isn't this pen great? Just look at how great this pen is. I think that would be the difference. Can it be used?
I think there is a question also. I don't know how to respond to this. Maybe, yeah, this is for you. So the question is, when writing a document, what objectives should be placed over time to ensure it doesn't get into the catch?
Doesn't get into the, say again?
Into the catch. It's spelled CACHE.
I don't think I fully understand the question.
So let me just copy it and paste it on the chat here so you see it.
Thanks.
Just a minute, sorry. It's taking me a little bit of time. Copy.
No worries.
Paste. Yeah. Awesome. So this is the question. I think the question was from Okoye.
Okay. Well, let's see. I don't know if I can provide the most useful answer to this question. I still don't fully know what you're getting at, but I would say that, let's see. As far as the cache goes, I think you might be talking about trying to avoid getting an older version of a document. And that is really kind of a technical topic, because it involves, the web servers, or, if you're talking about something in your browser. So yeah, that's I'm not really able to give you a really good answer here. I wouldn't worry about stuff like caches. At least it's not something that I have to worry about very often. What I worry about often is, have I explained something well enough so that people can use it? Something that I write documentation about on a pretty regular basis is Wikibase. And, Wikibase is not an easy, simple piece of software. And when I write documentation for it, I worry, does this make sense? Do people understand what I'm talking about? Okay, here's another question. Working on some Wikidata tools like mix and match, quick statements, etc., can they be regarded as technical writing? Well, I would say that the tools themselves are not technical writing, but let's take quick statements. This is a perfect example. I'm glad you brought it up. Quick statements is a tool that we use to import data into Wikibase or Wikidata. Wikidata is a big instance of Wikibase, and a lot of people don't know how to use it. It's actually a pretty weird tool. It's great. I'm glad we have it, but it is a little bit weird. And the documentation for it, the technical writing that explains how to use it, is perhaps not the best. I think it could be improved upon. So there's a situation where I think the quick statements. I think people thought, well, people who know how to who need to use it will figure out how to use it. And I hope someday that we have a really great, very well explained piece of information about how to use quick statements with a ton of examples. So I hope that answers your question there. Yeah, quick statements is that's been a fun one for us because on Wikibase we don't really have a lot of robust import tools, and quick statements is often the thing that people use. 5 minutes. Okay. Well, I would say that this is where I was going to open the floor to questions. So I hope that now's the time to ask your questions. Is what I want to say. Please ask more questions if needed. As you may know, I'll be giving another session tomorrow. I have received that feedback that it would be great to have a concrete piece of documentation to look at. So that's what you'll be seeing tomorrow. Let's see. I'm going to scroll back in the chat and see if I missed anything. Kind of shot myself in the foot there with that presentation stuff. Thank you for being patient with me, all of you. Oh, yes. Eze? Go ahead and unmute if you want and ask your question.
Okay, Eze, try unmuting yourself now and ask your question.
All right. My question is, like what he said before, I really want to get the point very clear. So he made mention of tools on technical writing. He mentioned 3 tools on technical writing. So it seems I get 2. So I want to know the last one. It's like I get empathy and editing. So I want to know the last one.
Well, the 4 things that I brought as the most important things for me were empathy and subject matter experts. Talking to subject matter experts, and editing you got, and hygiene. It's just a silly. It's how I think of it. It's keeping documents clean, keeping documents up to date, keeping them fresh. So perhaps I should pick a different word than hygiene, but just cleanliness, document cleanliness, empathy, subject matter experts, keeping your documents up to date, and making sure you know how to edit. Those are the 4 things. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much, Dan. I mean, personally, I've enjoyed this session already so much. I mean, the engagement is amazing. I could see most of the people here are interested in technical writing. Personally, I have a question actually, and my question is: does documentation or technical writing have to be in English?
Not at all. No, in fact, that's why I asked that question at the beginning. If anybody edits a Wikipedia that isn't in the country that they're in, just like Wikipedia's documentation is for whatever audience there is. So obviously not everyone in the world speaks English. So yeah, I mean, of course, I'm an English speaker. I think that's pretty clear. I also speak German, and I have been known to write documentation in German. You're quite welcome, everybody. Thanks for all the thanks in the chat. Yes, it's a good point, Benedict. Documentation and technical writing happen in all languages. Wherever there are ears to hear in whatever language, that needs technical writing.
Awesome. So a follow-up question to that would be, say for instance, there is a tool out there that has a documentation in English.
Yeah.
If if someone here goes on to translate that documentation or that documentation to, Igbo, for instance,
Sure.
would you call that process a technical writing?
Well, I wouldn't want to say it isn't technical writing. I would say that first and foremost, it's translation. But here's the thing. In order to do that translation, the person doing the translation needs to have information, needs to have the right information. In a lot of ways, they need to be able to understand it just as well as the person who wrote the original document. So it's very close to technical writing. And I think that anyone who has the ability to translate documentation like that should also be able to do technical writing with no problem. And by the way, thank you to all the translators out there, because boy, we need you. we need you bad. I was a translator before I did this job, and yeah, it's translation is a tough game. So thank you to all the volunteer translators who may be on this call.
Yeah, thank you so much. Once again, thank you for this wonderful session. And like I said to everyone, we will be having a continuation of this session tomorrow. So please, if you miss anything, feel free to go to the YouTube channel. I posted it earlier on. Let me see if I could just post it again. You could just go to YouTube and you will see it there. Posting it again here. Yes, so you could just go here and you will see the link to that, to our YouTube channel, where you can watch the video again, all over again, and follow with the discussion. Dan, I don't know if you are willing to share the slides with us on the Telegram.
Absolutely, absolutely, I will. I'll dump it right in there.
Thank you so much. So thank you, everyone. Tomorrow will be more of hands-on, right, Dan?
Absolutely, yeah.
Awesome.
Yep. Gonna be I think I might just take a look at some of the stuff that I wrote. Who knows?
Awesome.
Better.
Yeah, this is great. I mean, for those who want to see what the documentation looks like, I mean, tomorrow we'll be having hands-on session. So I could see like questions from the YouTube channel, and even here, some folks who wants to see what documentation looks like. Don't worry, just tune in tomorrow. Tomorrow, the same time, which is 4 p.m. UTC, which is 5 p.m. in Nigeria, and 4 p.m. in Ghana, and the UTC time 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. We could go beyond tomorrow as well. Again, once again, thank you so much, Dan. Hope to see you tomorrow, strong, healthy. And yeah, please, for those who have extra questions they want to ask, just write them down tomorrow. I think tomorrow, Dan, we could start with answering questions.
Absolutely, yeah.
Cool.
Sounds good.
Great. So tomorrow we could ask all your questions, and of course we have Dan here to answer. We'll also be talking about in terms of, for those who might want Dan to guide them, provide mentorship for them. We'll talk about that tomorrow as well. I also want to reiterate that you don't need to worry so much about the data you're spending here, because we have provisions for that. All you just need to do is pay attention. If you pay attention to what's going on, the questions being asked, the answers being provided, then you should be able to, gain something out of this. I, for one, knows I've gained a lot out of this. I'm hoping that everyone who joined today's session has gained a lot as well. So without taking much of our time, I don't know if anybody has any question pertaining to the program itself. I forgot I didn't mention that Wiki Mentor Africa, it's all about bringing more technical professionals, more technical persons into the Wikimedia folds. And so which is why we're doing this. For those who don't know what Wiki Mentor Africa is all about, maybe tomorrow also I will try to throw more light on that. If you have any questions, remember we are also on Telegram. I'm trying to bring out the Telegram link. I don't know if Eugene can help us with that, or Tochi can help us. Just drop the Telegram link on Tochi. If you're on YouTube, yeah, help us drop the Telegram link on YouTube, and Eugene, you can help us drop the Telegram link here. I'll also update that on our YouTube, the Telegram link. So please, if you're not on a Telegram link, go there. I mean, you could ask your questions. You don't even necessarily need to wait till tomorrow to ask your questions. You could ask your questions on the Telegram. And if it's something that Dan can't answer on the Telegram, I'm sure he will come here tomorrow and answer it for us. But feel free to also drop your questions there. Just in case you might forget your question by tomorrow, you can always drop it there and he will answer it. Yeah, I don't know if there is any other thing, any question, comment, observation before we end today's session. Dan, you have lots of thank you from the YouTube channel. Everyone is saying thank you to you.
You're very welcome. I'm pleased. I'm so pleased. Thanks everybody for tuning in. You're very, very, very welcome.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to open up the mic now, just so anyone who has any question can just ask. But before I open up if you have any question, comments before we end today's session, show of hand, because if I open up the mic, everyone will it's become rowdy all of a sudden. So yeah, any question, comment, observation before we end the session? I think I've said all I have to say. Anybody? Show of hand. If not, so wait, I think the rule of thumb is wait for 9 seconds or so. So let's wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Yeah. So no questions. Just thank you, everyone saying to Dan. Thank you, Dan. So thank you so much. See you tomorrow, same time. Remember, it's 4 p.m. UTC time, which is 5 p.m. Nigerian time, 4 p.m. Ghana time. And yeah, just check the word clock. UTC time is the global standard time. So you could just easily check where you're joining us from and the time and correlate it with your time. And yes, so thank you, everyone. And without wasting anybody's time anymore, bye. Oh, for those on YouTube, before you go, please remember to subscribe so you don't miss any session that will be coming up from us. Also like us. I mean, if you enjoyed today's session, like it. If you didn't enjoy it, still like the video. So yeah, feel free to also share the channel with anybody you feel will benefit from it as well. For those on Zoom, please go to the YouTube and subscribe there if you have not subscribed already. Yeah. Thank you so